All right, good morning. It is a Monday, August 4th, already 2025. Football practice underway. Lots of content coming out. Stay tuned to this channel. Take a picture with your phone of the QR code, okay? Subscribe and share. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Central to 9 a.m. Lot to cover, a lot of shows on this channel. Stay tuned all the time. EP Brendan Martin extraordinaire is putting out content and reels. Stay tuned. We're bringing up the hot takes and hot information all the time. We got a great lineup today. Coach Ellis Johnson, veteran coach in the SEC for 43 years, joins us, a.k.a. Tom Cruise from over in South Carolina.
Hollywood.
Yeah, in just a couple of minutes, David Murray from Dawgs Bite 24/7. It's a Mississippi State website. Long time. He's been around since 79, knows that program well in the SEC. And David Bartoo will join us as well at half past the hour from somewhere in Oregon. Could be on the coast, could be in the mountains, could be on top of a chicken coop from College Football Matrix and Lights Out Gummies, man. Thank you so much, everybody. Brendan, school started yet for y'all?
No, we had this discussion, Rob. Y'all are going to school like on summer program. We got like 3 weeks.
Oh, God, you're lucky. All right.
Yeah, we'll go to school August 20th.
God. I remember.
You guys are in that. You guys do that summer A and summer B stuff now. It's different.
That's crazy.
You guys are just going to a year-round program. You just don't realize it.
It's crazy. 2 months of summer. You need 3. Coach, practice is underway. Looked into my email. You ought to see what GatorBaitMedia.com is putting out. They're putting out so much stuff on Florida. They had to go to a practice down there. You know what? I'm watching NFL Network, and I see training camp for the Kansas City Chiefs. Without a doubt, the most successful franchise in the NFL right now. And they open up those early training camps. You know, you better be careful. You're walking a precipitous line with your fans. You keep pushing them away. Somebody's going to file a lawsuit, some group of fans, and it's coming for the open records, the sunshine laws. These are state universities. You don't tell us what to do. You do what we tell you to do. It's going to get crazy, but access to practice. Buddy Martin and the Gator Bait Media guys got to go to Florida practice. That was so cool to read it. It's not trying to attack the coaches and all, but, you know, there was a trust always with writers and the coaches. So before David Murray comes on, your take on that, because you've been on the other side of it.
Well, last time I was on, which seems like it was 2 years ago, Buddy and I were talking about the old days, you know, when the writers and the coaches had relationships.
Yeah.
And they kind of needed each other. Because,
yes.
I mean, the newspaper was the main way to get your program out there. And nowadays, like the things we're doing right now at this moment, you got so much of this stuff, the newspapers are basically, they don't have anything for anybody that's interesting because it's all old news. So I don't know about the access. I never thought about it from that angle. But I understand why coaches don't want a bunch of people around there. The more people you have at your practice, the more chance you're going to have of people getting video and all that kind of thing. Plus, you got injuries, things you'd rather not have put out in the public arena. So I think there's a reason for it, but I never thought about it from that legal angle you mentioned.
Well, the reason I say that is because it's so frustrating because fans, I mean, you know, you get a guy, and I'm talking right now about Buddy. You know, Buddy Martin's been covering sports a long time. He's always had relationships with coaches. And look, the first time you violate off the record or anything, we all know that. You're done. But I just think it brings the fans closer to the program because they feel a lot of times like they're being pushed away. I remember going to practice, you know, writing for the Auburn Plainsman and doing my show Sidelines in college at Auburn. Pat Dye he was an intimidating man. He just was. And it just, especially to a young kid, you know, at practice, and someone would ask him a question about the heat, and he'd go, well, hell, you know, you don't like the damn heat, get your ass up to Michigan, Syracuse, or something like that. He'd go, this Alabama. And they'd be wheeling a guy on a stretcher, you know, past him from heat exhaustion. And but they were tough. They cared about the players, but that toughness, man, Coach, you made it through the Citadel. You're a graduate of the Citadel. That ain't easy. And you got 2 older brothers went to West Point. I just think it's something better be thinking about because it brings look at those Chiefs fans out there Not every practice is open, but pretty cool.
One of the best examples that comes to mind, I don't know if any of y'all are aware of it, but Green Bay, there's I'd say it's about a 300-yard, 400-yard walk from their locker room to their practice facility.
Yeah.
The actual field. And the local kids come on their bicycles to come see practice. And they wait for the players to come out of the locker room, and a player will get on the kid's bike and put the kid on there and double head him over to the practice field. And just things like that, I'm sure, of course, Green Bay is very unique, but those type things, boy, that really does bring a fan base closer to the team, I think.
I'll tell you how cool they are. Randall Cobb, remember him, played at Kentucky? Saw him at SEC Media Days. And, of course, he played for the Packers. And I've got two great friends, Michael Sag and Connor Sag. They're in my hunting club. They're from Memphis. They're Packers fanatics. They go to 3 or 4 games a year up in Green Bay. I asked Randall, I said, hey, can you do me a favor for some friends of mine? Would you say something to Michael and Connor Sag about the Green Bay Packer Nation? He goes, absolutely. He did like a minute-long video of going, man, being part of the Packer family and the Packer. And I was like, Randall Cobb, he's from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, right outside of Knoxville. And I said, you broke my heart in 2009 when y'all came down and beat Auburn. He goes, yeah, the next year, Cam wouldn't give me enough time to get one more chance at the ball because that's a hell of a play. But that's the kind of stuff that we love about college football players and coaches.
Yeah, no question. And players enjoy that. Most every player I've ever been around, they love doing things for kids. Coach Spurrier's wife, Jerry, she was very good at those type of activities, getting the kids and the players connected. I mean, it was birthday. Yeah. She had everybody's birthday. She hardly let any of them pass unless we just weren't even in town. Halloween, all those type things. She would have things set up so that the kids could interact with the players.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's why we love Steve Spurrier. I mean, and his wife, Jerry. I don't know him. Y'all do, but the fans connect. And I go back to I remember listening to, I love to listen to AM radio, coaches shows on a Monday or Wednesday or Thursday night. And they'd say, just load up that station wagon, bring all the young'uns up there and make it a weekend. And that's how you connect with the fans. And I think fan bases in college football, it's that love of the laundry. And we love it when the players on those teams love the laundry, the jersey and the colors like we do. David Murray, I believe, is in, he says, Dawg Bite 24/7. He says he's in. I hope he's in.
You should ask the producer that one. I don't see it.
Okay, yeah.
Definitely not in.
Okay, because he said he's in. But, Coach, practice right now. You've got no more 3-a-days, 2-a-days, but the practices are tough. There's a lot of mental stuff. They're using iPads on the sidelines. Talk about how that evolution is changing, good or bad college
football.
Football.
Just went above my pay grade on that one. I didn't have anything.
Well, we'll refer to the guy in the glasses.
I had paper, and I had my paper inside a plastic binder in case it rained.
Most coaches are reporting that half the stuff's that's not working, and it's just not worth it.
Well, I tell you, they are having a problem speaking to the players on the field because it's just different from the pros. The pros' tempo is just different than college. And when you start this speed up, slow down, a lot of times the coaches are not able to communicate with the players the way they'd like to. Hand signals are actually better and being able to do things. Now, the tablets, I never fooled with them. I was a little bit ahead of that. But they say those are really helping players and coaches on the sideline during games. And I could see that. There used to be a rule you couldn't watch any replay of the game while the game's going on. So I don't know when they changed that rule. But these kids are on these tablets now. It's just like me on a cell phone. It's second nature to them. They come on that sideline. You pull up 2 or 3 plays that happened in the last series, and it's unbelievable helpful.
Yeah, we're going over to Atlanta opening weekend of college football. We had Gary Stoken, CEO of the Peach Bowl and the Kickoff Classic and the Hall of Fame. We're going over Thursday, going to go to the Tennessee-Syracuse game. I'm going to go to South Carolina, Virginia Tech, make it an opening weekend because our oldest daughter, Mallory, will be moving into her new house. And she said, y'all have got to come visit. So, okay, I'll go watch 2 college football games and go to the College Hall of Fame. Twist my arm and I'll do it. Coach, looking at it right now, I'm going to throw a stat at you. Does this mean anything to you? In 4 years in Knoxville, Josh Heupel's Tennessee quarterbacks have only thrown 18 interceptions. Last year, Garrett Nussmeier threw 12 in 1 year. Joey Aguilar coming in, App State, UCLA for a semester. Now he's at Tennessee. Doesn't that bode well in his favor that he should have a pretty productive year just because Josh Heupel flat out knows what he's doing?
I would have to say that stat has a huge, huge connection to the system, and him being a coach who coaches it that way, especially because, they're not afraid to throw the football. And it's certainly not a wishbone attack. And only 16 in 4 years. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 4 years, 18 total.
That is an amazing statistic. You played in arguably one of the best, if not the fastest league in the nation, against defenses, that are really good. And you put the ball up a lot in the system you run. So obviously you're taking care of it in that manner. It's good coaching, and it's probably got a lot to do with the system too.
Well, I think Josh Heupel played quarterback at Oklahoma. He's from Aberdeen, South Dakota. We got 2 head coaches in this league from South Dakota. Kalen DeBoer is from Millbrook, South Dakota, and Josh is from Aberdeen. But I just think does a great job of working. I'm not saying he's Steve Spurrier with quarterbacks, but he's pretty damn good. All right, got to ask you this one. On South Carolina right now, you're over there in the Palmetto State. You're in touch with a lot of people. You got a son, Charlie, a rising sophomore, as the radio guys call him, tight end. Looking forward to seeing Charlie maybe catch a touchdown against LSU. What if you're on here with Frank Duffy and Charlie catches the winning touchdown pass to beat LSU? That's going to be wild. But let's talk about the Gamecocks. They won 9 last year. Real close on a couple of other ones, but they also won some close ones that could have gone the other way. So the record's what it is. What do you think is going to happen with them this year?
If Charlie catches a touchdown against LSU, they're going to have to reschedule LSU for 2 years from now, because I think it's going to be that long before he gets on the game field. But he's doing good. I'm really proud of him, but he's down at depth chart right now. But South Carolina, I've just kind of got it's two ends of the spectrum right now that I'm struggling with. I got a lot of confidence in some guys on staff over there that I know real well, but defensively, they got just absolutely decimated with losses to graduation and the draft, and I don't know if they've replaced them. So if the kid is Lenore Sellers is an unbelievable athlete, if he has to start playing from behind, he's a little bit of a liability. Also, if he doesn't get enough snaps because the defense is not getting stops quick enough or getting enough stops, all that stuff goes hand in hand. But they've got some tremendous individual athletes, and 2 or 3 of them on that offense, including Sellers, and they could be really dangerous. I heard something on the radio yesterday, and I would say it's pretty accurate. They're going to lose to some teams that they had a chance to beat, but they're going to beat some teams this year that they shouldn't have beat, just because they're going to be that kind of football team. And I think it could have been a pretty accurate statement. I think they're going to be a younger team, and I think they're going to probably be a little more erratic than they were last year. Defense is well coached, but I don't see any way they can play at the level they did last year.
Yeah, you lose 5 players drafted, and that's tough. In the case of Georgia, they lose them. And, like Kirby says, we've given a lot more to the portal than we've taken from it. They're very selective in who they take. I'm telling you, that Clemson game, I may even slip over and meet Frank Duffy. He's going to have lots of food and drink over there for that Clemson LSU game. But another one I want to ask you about, going back down to Florida, Brendan stays on top of it with, I hate to use the term breaking news because too much stuff is breaking news. It's broken news almost. But DJ Lagway, everybody talks about his health and all. He's a big physical kid. He's also one of the most impressive. Have you seen him interviewed? Did you watch the stuff on SEC Network with Marty and McGee with him? Wouldn't you love coaching DJ
I didn't
Lagway?
see that, but I saw a replay of his interview at Media Days, and he really was an impressive kid. That's the first time I've ever seen him in an interview situation. I've only seen him in a football uniform before then. Brendan probably knows this a whole lot more than I would, but I'm concerned. Shoulder and an Achilles related thing, anything around the calf and the Achilles, those aren't areas that you want to have happen. Knees are really becoming more. You can handle a knee with great surgery because I guess they're getting so common. And things like a broken hand or whatever, that'll heal. But when you start having a shoulder problem and you're a quarterback, or if you're any athlete and you're having problems that are chronic down around the calf and the Achilles, I don't like to hear that. So I don't know. He's a pretty big kid. If he's not well conditioned and really staying on top of himself on those kind of things, that's what leads to these lower body injuries with big kids.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, he weighs about 237, 238. Both. Let's bring in David Murray, Dawgs Bite 24/7. I see he's in. David, we can't see you, but we can hear you. I don't know if you got your camera on or not, but David, we got Coach Ellis Johnson on here, executive producer Brendan Martin, and I talking about preseason practice. And certainly it's underway down in Starkville, year 2 under Jeff Lebby. Heard you on Chuck Oliver's show Friday. Great job. Watched a lot of your stuff that you've done on podcasts and all. You've been doing this a long time. You remember Mississippi State's magic man, Marty McDowell from Mobile. So you know that program well. How are you? Are you there, David? Okay. Well, we'll try to bring him back in here. But, Coach, I'm looking around the SEC, and, in no particular order, my top 6 are, Georgia, Texas, Florida, Bama, A&M, Oklahoma. And that didn't even include LSU, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Auburn, and Tennessee. And that doesn't include Missouri. I'm telling you, I just want your thoughts. I'm going to go out west here on the western flank. Eli Drinkwitz. That guy's he's a hell of a coach. What do you think about what they're doing at Missouri? They've spent, by the way, they just invested over the last couple of years over $300 million in stadium improvements at Faroe Field.
They needed that, but I don't know. In today's world, the thing that builds recruits is cash in hand. And they've been doing something on that too. They were one of the first states to aggressively say, you can pay a high school kid before he gets to your program. I don't know how much that jump started their recruiting, but a lot of colleges were not allowing it at that time, and they did. He is a really good football coach. I never have worked with Eli. We had a mutual connection. He had worked with Malzahn, and we were phone buddies when I was at Auburn. He would just call about certain teams and just back and forth about what we thought about them and things like that. But he did a heck of a job up at Appalachian, and and moved on. I think that Missouri is a tough job in the SEC, and we talked about this a little bit. I think we were talking about Arkansas when they got out of the old Southwest Conference and jumped over to the SEC. There were a number of years there they didn't have a recruiting base, and they were trying to come over and recruit kids over in Alabama and stuff like that. They kind of lost their Texas hold, and I think that's happened to Missouri a little bit too. Now you got some, Missouri's pretty close up in the north, Midwest. You get up in those big cities and find kids too if you got coaches that know that area. But I think he does a heck of a job. I think it's going to be tough for him to get up in the top half of that conference consistently. I just don't know if they can do it.
Well, you got to think about. I guess what you have to think about is they have that NIL rule in Missouri that allows you to start paying a kid, in-state kid, if he's signing or coming to you. Now, he may not come, but they've got a large population base. They go into Illinois and Chicago in that area, but that's a program they're a 9 or 10 winner. I mean, that's how strong this league is. I was watching some Big Ten football last night on Big Ten Network. I bounce around all these networks. They were showing Washington and Southern Cal playing last year. It doesn't seem right. I'm going to go out on a limb right now because I'm drinking some pecan coffee from Shadrack's, but I'm going to predict I will not be shocked Coach, if the Pac-12 doesn't, they don't get the band back together. These travel schedules are just brutal, and it's not just football; it's the other sports.
There you go.
Yeah, and it just doesn't make any sense.
You know, it's bad enough to take a football team, leave on a Thursday, go from West Coast to East Coast and play somebody. Now you can get that done, although it's been proven through Major League Baseball that teams traveling from west to east don't have as good a record as those traveling east to west. It just messes up your biological clock for a while. The thing that really hurts you, though, is when you come home from that trip and you've got something else on the docket in about 3 or 4 days, and your kids for 2-3 days practice is just nothing. Just mentally and physically, they're not there. And I think coaches are starting to realize it. I saw the basketball coach from UCLA, and I can't spit the name right now.
Mitt Cronin.
Cronin, yeah. I mean, it was a post-game or either post-season interview, and he was wound up. And, I mean, that's what he was talking about. So we've got an obstacle to overcome, and it is not a level playing field. And, hell, I don't know why they did it to start with. I guess they'll wave that big dollar bill, you know, what they're going to get from TV. And they just said, yeah, that's what we got to do. But well, I can't imagine all these other sports, the amount of time they spend in airplanes getting those kids back and forth to contests.
Well, UCLA was in debt about close to $100 million in the red. That's why they joined the Big Ten. And that happened July 1st of 2022. Look, what makes the SEC so special is the contiguous footprint.
Yep.
It's like the weatherman. Over my shoulder here, you can see that map. We're all connected. I ain't going to be surprised because of the growth of the Catholic Church in the South. If the SEC doesn't make a grab at Notre Dame, because Indiana's connected to Kentucky, which is, you know, all the way up, and they'll be able to say the Southeastern Conference from the top of Lake Michigan all the way to Key West and everywhere in between. It sounds like a commercial for Brasfield Gorey Construction out of Birmingham. They build everything in that area. But, Coach, I love what's happening, though. You know what? You're not hearing about Weeks, the linebacker at LSU. Tough kid. He got 2 brothers on the team there. I think his dad played with Kirby Smart at Georgia. I think he's from Watkinsville, Georgia, right outside of Athens. Someone asked him about NIL and stuff like that. You know what he said? He goes, sir, he goes, we don't talk about finance and money. He goes, we're talking ball. He goes, our coach has got us so dialed in and focused. We're watching tape. We're studying. I got to ask you this. Did you have many of your kids when you were coaching come to you and say, Coach, can I come in there at 5 a.m. and watch tape with you? Because there was a kid at Auburn named Darren Bates who played at my high school, Christian Brothers High School in Memphis. Got down there. He was like a 2-star. He kind of slipped through the cracks because he transferred going into his senior year. Showed up at Auburn, missed the entire summer sessions. Showed up and was so far behind, they thought, man, this kid cannot play D1 ball. Tommy Thigpen was coaching defensive backs at Auburn. And Darren went to him and said, hey, can I come watch extra tape with you? A few days later, they had the first full contact scrimmage. In 25 snaps, Darren had 7 tackles, 2 contact hits, and a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. And he started every game in his 4-year career there. Do you have many kids like Darren Bates, who's still in the NFL, by the way?
Yeah, I remember him very well.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't had a lot of that. Now, I've had a lot of kids they were gym rats as far as coming over there wanting to see film and look at film.
Yeah.
But as far as coming in, frankly, the way we organized for them to come in and sit with us and watch tape might not have helped them as much as them going and watching the tape we told them to go watch, because we were constantly stopping and talking things through. And a kid wouldn't see as much tape as he probably would if he was by himself or with a group of kids. So most of the time, we gave them a list or, you know, an outline. Make sure you watch this the first 2 days of the week, because this is what will have you ready to play this team or whatever.
Yeah, and I know if David Murray can see us, I know we're trying to get him in, and I know Brendan's doing everything he can. But I wanted to ask about Mississippi State and Jeff Lebby. You coached over there in Starkville. Okay, here's Dave Bartoo in right now. Now, Coach, I've told you about Dave Bartoo. You don't know where he is. He could be having a morning coffee with Squatch out there in the mountains of Oregon, about 35 to 40 miles outside of Portland. He has College Football Matrix, puts together coaching staffs, NFL and college, and also the Lights Out Gummies. Been doing this a while, and a big game hunting guide. Coach, David Bartoo, say hello to Coach Ellis Johnson. We're trying to have David Murray from Dawgs Bite 24/7 on, talking some Mississippi State, but had some technical issues. But we've been having a discussion bouncing all over the SEC. First off, love the background. Last week, Coach, he was on the Pacific Ocean in Oregon. Later that day, didn't we have a tsunami warning? I was like, Dave, but everything was good. How you doing?
I'm doing great this morning. How are y'all?
Good.
Last time I was on with Dave a couple of 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, sir. Actually, put a pin in this one, Rob. I do have a strategic question for Coach at some point in this show. I got a question.
Go with it now.
Go with it now. Okay. So one of the things, as you know, perpetual data nerd. Okay. Which it's easy for me because mom brings me my meals, 3 square meals in the basement every day, so I can focus on my data. But one of the things I started looking at was penalties, discipline penalties versus judgment penalties. And obviously the discipline ones, your false start, too many men on the field, etc. Then your judgment penalties. And I started breaking it out by team. And so, for example, one of the teams, Iowa State, in 2024, in the fourth quarter of all their games against FBS teams, they had 0 judgment penalties against them. No passing interference, no holding, no offensive lineman downfield, nothing. But their opponents had 11. Now, I know a lot of people listening might go, well, that's only 1 a game, Dave. That's not a lot. A defensive judgment call raises a drive's expected points by 3.7 points. These calls are big. So my question to Coach is, if you learn of a disparity like that, do you have an opportunity to get in front of an officiating crew before the game to meet them? And would you take advantage of pointing out something like that to try to gain an edge in your game that you're about to play?
It sounds to me like Iowa State's got a better payroll for their officials. when you get something that disparity, something going on. But seriously, I love this subject because this is what we, later in my career, this is what we tracked. We called it accountability. If we had a pre-snap penalty or a post-whistle penalty, our kids were punished for it. But holding and pass interference and those type aggressive judgment calls,
right?
We corrected it and coached it, but we didn't penalize kids for that when they're playing hard. And so it's kind of different from what you're talking about. According to the judgment penalties are more costly, but
much more costly.
With jumping off sides on defense, or like let's say a kid made a tackle and you had a face mask. We didn't punish that. Now we coached it and we criticized it, but we didn't. But I can see the point. And that's very interesting what you say, and I'm glad you brought that up. Now, I think what we do, not only do we have officials come in and talk to the players, but we have them come in and talk to the coaches. One of the biggest things they do is they teach you how to coach defenders downfield, how to be aggressive on pass interference without being called for pass interference. Here's what we're going to call every time, so don't do it. Here's what we might not see, and if you want to coach it and teach it, that's fine. But we did those things a lot, Dave.
Okay. But in those meetings, if you had an opponent like Iowa State, okay, let's say you're Auburn playing Iowa State the second week this season, right? And you're at Iowa State. Are you going to go, look, something, we just want a fair game. This is the benefits Iowa State got last year. Would you try to get in the official's head if you had a point of data that was a legitimate edge for them?
Yes, but you got to be careful, because if you approach them in a manner that they feel like you're trying to coax them a little bit, sometimes the thing you showed them on the other opponent, they hold every time on this play. Watch this kid, they holding and nobody's calling it. And damn, if you wouldn't get the holding call in the game on your own team. So
Okay.
you have to be careful because they're human. But you're exactly right. I mean, we would study film, and if we saw something constantly, and it was either not being called, and a lot of times it was formation alignments, allowing offensive linemen too deep off the ball, or things of that nature. And you
Sure.
get tired of watching it over and over, and nobody's calling it. So you take a clip and send it in to the officials. After games, you had to send in all your disputed calls and a clip on it. If you didn't send a clip of film on it, they didn't even look at it.
Okay. So maybe it's something that you send to the conference office or something, not necessarily on the Saturday before the game, but make somebody else aware of it, just to make sure it kind of gets in somebody's head without ticking them off.
Absolutely. And you try to do it as early in the week as you can. Now, the pregame meeting, when they come into the locker room, I've heard a lot of conversations, with coaches where they specifically tell the officials, now we've seen this on film, and, if you just be aware of it, and if you see it, call it. Just call it both ways.
Yeah, I prefer just posting about it on social media in favor of my head coaches early in the week, and just let fans gripe about it all week. Eventually it'll get back to somebody.
That's
Yeah.
right. And I still think you need to have a good payroll. Something that disparate. I mean, they got 11-0.
11 to, well, here's what's interesting though, Coach.
That sounds like the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, I get you. Do you want those numbers?
Three
No.
Super Bowls, 0 holding calls on Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. Well, I'll get back to the NFL later, but see, the thing is, when you look at the macro level of penalties called, like if you're watching ESPN and they go, oh, look at the for and against all year. It's like 49-51. It's like 50-50.
Yeah.
It's you put everybody in this giant mixing bowl. Last year there was 7,311 judgment calls, right?
Yeah.
And if you throw them all into a big giant bowl, it's like, oh, well, they're pretty even. But then if you pull out to the conference level, see, one of the things that got me down this thing is all these fans complaining, oh, the SEC cooks for their favorites. They're always calling flags against the underdog to protect their own. Yeah, something, last year the SEC had the most judgment calls against their favorites relative to the underdogs. It was the Big Ten that actually cooked the favorites the worst last year. And then you go into the team level, and then you find things like Iowa State, but you also find Baylor was minus 10 judgment calls on the entire season. Kansas State was plus 13. Iowa State was plus 8. And so you look inside these numbers and you start burrowing in, and it's never 50-50. And to me, it's fascinating. With the penalties, they're almost like turnover ratios. It's luck. It's luck. I guarantee you, though, like at Iowa State, SMU, I think was plus 19 judgment calls last year. That's going to be gone, right? That won't happen again. And if you look at Iowa State had 2 comeback wins of one possession wins in the fourth quarter last year. SMU had 3. Man, it is amazing how all of these judgment calls correlate with teams that survive late in the fourth quarter and win football games.
Well, I think also, I made a couple of comical remarks about it and all that too, but at the same time, some teams are coached better and they're more disciplined with their fundamentals and their technique than others. And that is a factor. I mean, and I know that the officials could almost call the holding call every play, just like in the NBA, they could call walking every play. But I do think there are some teams that are going to be more disciplined, more fundamentally sound, and that factors into this big time.
Yeah. Well, you think about the holding penalties. I got a friend of mine played for Auburn. He was a starting at this time right tackle. Auburn was playing Florida down in the swamp in the early 2000s. And Hugh Nall was coaching the offensive line for Tommy Tuberville. And Coach Nall was a pretty intense guy. And my friend, God love him, big fella, about 6'5", 310. And the center, was called for holding in a key time in the game. And they called him over to the sidelines, and as he did, Nall grabbed him and let him have it. And it was my friend that was actually the one off sides. And I said, well, didn't you tell Coach Nall it was you? He goes, hell no. He went through about 3 or 4 clipboards a game. But like my friend says, he's in the witness protection program. We held basically, they teach you how to use your knuckles and do things like that. But I think that stat that you gave, Dave, about judgment calls is fascinating. And those are, and Coach, by the way, your defense in that 2013 Auburn team in the second half, the first 20 minutes, teams kind of moved around. Y'all kind of felt them out. The last 8 to 10 minutes of the first half and the second half, you look at the Bama game in 2010, Auburn held Alabama to 67 total yards of offense in the second half. And that
our philosophy was just let them get tired in the first half, and maybe we'd stop them in the second half.
Well, when you got Carl Lawson and Montravius Adams, and you've got Nosa Igwe, who's a great guy. We've had him on the show before. It's different. Dave, I got to ask you, coaching staffs in the SEC, you do such an incredible job of cutting through all the minutia and putting it in the vernacular. And I want to ask you about a coaching staff right now, Arkansas with Bobby Petrino there, year 2, Talon Green at quarterback. What do you like? What do you like or not like?
What's not to like, right? I mean, Petrino, you look at his career, he has had some high-level offenses. And then if you look overall in his career, we have him graded as a 4-star plus offensive coordinator. I think he is, in terms of active coordinators in the FBS right now, I think he's top 25. And he's got a high ceiling. You have a returning quarterback. Obviously, the most important returning starter you can have in college football, and especially in the SEC, when you look at a lot of the big powers, Georgia, new quarterback, Alabama, new quarterback, Texas, new quarterback. I think there's a lot of opportunities for a returning starting quarterback with a good offensive coordinator that could possibly make some waves in the SEC. So offensively, I don't think any of us are really worried about Arkansas because you had a good offense last year, because you have Petrino, and we all know Petrino is coaching to be a head coach again, right? I mean, he is putting everything into having a great offense in order to get a shot at being a head coach again. We all know that. So I'm not worried about the Arkansas offense. I think the question is just going to come down to overall talent and the defense for that team this year.
Yeah. David, another one I got to ask about, I want to ask you is Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. We were going to have David Murray on from Dawgs Bite 24/7. We'll try again tomorrow. I put that on me. But his father-in-law is Art Briles. He's got a really good mind. He was at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, had great success, left after 22, goes to Oklahoma. Now he's at Mississippi State. Blake Shapen, his quarterback, that's where you start. Defense couldn't be any worse than they were last year. As David Murray said, never seen anything like it in my 46 years of covering Mississippi State.
It's Mama always said, if you don't got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all, but we can't have radio silence here.
Yeah.
So, there's it's hard to find anything positive about Mississippi State right now. Right? I mean, you're talking Lebby, but he's been an offensive coordinator. He's called plays for 3 years. 2 of the 3 have been horrific.
Yeah.
Terrible. Right?
Yeah.
The defense, there's no question the defense last year was absolutely horrific. It was 111th in scoring efficiency in the FBS, and the second worst SEC team was 76th.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and they're scheduled, what is their win total? 3.5? So Las Vegas says they're going to win 3 non-conference game, and they give them a half a win against Arizona State and 8 SEC teams. Their recruiting class, the high school recruiting is trending towards one of the worst classes in 25, 30, 40 years at Mississippi State. And this is without Lane Kiffin even trying to recruit in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
The staff, it was a rough staff. But it was a young staff to begin with. There's still a lot of questions. in my mind. But right now, you're looking at from a grade standpoint, a bottom 3 overall staff, a really really tough schedule, and we all know that Jeff can't go buckshot in the SEC in 2 years. So
Yeah.
big season,
Yeah.
not a lot of promise.
Yeah. So what's not to like there? I mean, that's coach. You've coached in Starkville before. They've had their moments. I mean, back in 2014, for 5 weeks, they were number one. Trivia question: who was the first team to be ranked number one in the country when the CFP rankings came out in 2014? It's Mississippi State. I mean, pretty cool story. Coach, the defense last year, Zach Arnett. First off, from a coaching perspective, when Mike Leach died, which was horrible, in 23, Zach Arnett just tried to run a completely different offense. I would have said, let's keep doing what we're doing. I'll handle the defense. What about you?
Mike is so unique. I don't know that he had somebody there that could keep it rolling.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, compare when we came in to what Jeff's trying to accomplish. I mean, he's coming in at the worst possible time you could come into a program like that and try to resurrect it.
Yeah.
You just brought Oklahoma and Texas on board. The conference is a hell of a lot harder now than it was when we came in. Also, we followed Jackie Sherrill, and there were some problems there, and it kind of lost some of the kids, disciplinary things, but there was some talent there.
Yeah.
We had a chance to recruit on top of it and kind of filter out some bad apples and replace them. And by the third, fourth year, we were a decent team. We weren't great, but we were a decent team. But it was so much better path. Alabama was good back then, but they weren't Powerhouse.
Yeah.
And Auburn was good, but they were it was when Tommy was losing a little bit of steam, And we beat Alabama. We beat Auburn. We beat Florida. We beat a lot of teams while we were there that today they're loaded. And then here comes the NIL in the portal. We didn't have that to contend with back then. So it was a different job. And I don't know how you do it right now. I mean, there's always a way to get it done. I would never, as a coach, say you can't do it.
Yeah.
But it's monumental. I don't know how in the hell you're going to get it out with all these things working against you.
Yeah. Dave, I want to ask you about Texas A&M. We all remember watching the old TV show Dallas. You got in the boardroom, everybody's got on a cowboy hat and a bolero tie and a shit ton of money. That's the A&M. Think about it. Board of Trustees, regents, whatever the hell you call it. Everybody's in there bench pressing their wallets in public. Well, I tell you. Well, God dang it, do something. We're an 8-5 program. Is that going to change any? I think Mike Elko can coach his ass off.
I love Mike Elko. I really do. As a head coach and a defensive coordinator, what he did at Duke showed you how quickly he can turn things around, showed you how well he can organize and establish a culture. His offensive coordinator, Klein, solid. He's in his second year. Again, like Coach just said, the SEC is just a buzzsaw every Saturday. It's just, we're talking about A&M struggling to, maybe win a conference title or getting a conference title game. And they'd be favored in God knows how many games against everybody else in the country. But I do believe in Elko, but there seems to be something, as kind of like you alluded to, there's like an intangible in these Texas schools. It's not just A&M. It's also Texas. You have a preponderance of wealth and talent. And the Texas A&M in the Big 12, ooh, man, I think if we sat down and drank beers for 3 hours, I think we could come to the conclusion that in the last 25 years, A&M may have underperformed their talent more in the Big 12 than anybody else. But who else is right there? So is Texas. And maybe, like you were just saying, maybe there's too many wallets. There's too many cooks in the kitchen behind the curtain, because the talent's there, right? The recruited talent's there. Texas is a perennially top 5 recruiter. A&M has been top 15. Jimbo took them in the top 10. Elko keeps them in the top 10 to 15. So the talent's there. The support is there. The stadiums are full. The money is everywhere. Everything that you could want to be a conference and national championship contender is at both programs, and both chronically seem to underperform. So to me, there's something behind the curtain in big time Texas football, and there's too many people trying to take credit for something that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I would compare the state of Alabama, a state of a little over 5 million people, to the state of Texas. Remember the movie 300, King Leonidas, the 300 Spartan, with 6,000 occasions and Thespians, took on 250,000 Xerxes the Great. And they probably, history says, took out about 22,000 of Xerxes' men before they were all wiped out. But a few years later, at the Battle of Marathon, 488 BC, they turned the table and everything changed. You know, you've got that Spartan culture in Alabama, and there's money in Alabama. I'm an Auburn grad. I got friends at Auburn in Alabama. Coached at Alabama on 2 different tours, but you've got more of a linear focus. You still got some guys that want to run the show, but the money from 1970 to the present, in the last 55 years, the state of Texas, with all that money and talent, has produced how many national championships? One. In the state of Alabama, look at the state of Florida since 1983 with 23 million people. And it didn't have that many, has produced 11 national championships. Got to ask you about Florida, man. Billy Napier. Coach has known Billy Napier since he was 21 years old. He's kind of quiet, but I think he's building a culture, his culture at Florida. Like it or not.
No, well, I'm biased, right? I mean, that's I've been part of that culture for a little bit, and really believe in Billy Napier. In fact, given all the pressure against him in October, might have been college football coach of the year the last 6 weeks of the regular season, because I'm sure there's a lot of guys that would have folded, and somehow they got it turned around. Staffing is solid. I think him as a head coach, above average. Offensive coordinator, solid. Ron Roberts has had some really good years.
Yeah.
Coach can attest to that, and his defenses. So yeah, but again, with Florida, they don't recruit at an elite level. So they're playing with a little bit less of a stack deck. And that schedule, I don't care what you say, the physicality alone of that schedule and the lack of depth in college football right now just catches up to teams. So as much as I love the opportunity that Florida has with their staff, with their kids, with their quarterback, I can't, this wouldn't be a team that I go, okay, this is a dark horse to get to the SEC title game, because that schedule is as tough as anything out there. And I just can't bet on something that is that hard of a path. If they make it, hats off. But to me, 8-4, 9-3 is a fantastic year for the combination of what they have with that schedule.
Coach, the creeper defense that Ron Roberts started at, I think, Delta State and then Southeast Louisiana, Baylor, has been around a while. Just in 60 seconds or less, can you explain that to Joe Sixpack, who's sitting on the front porch sniffing glue out in Olathe, Kansas?
I really don't. I mean, from a standpoint of X's and O's, I really don't know much about it, what he does. One thing, remember the last time we were on together, though, after we got through, we wished we'd asked Dave about the exodus of players out of the SEC as compared to coming in.
Yes.
I want to get with your knowledge and your matrix and all this stuff, you can probably answer this question and be accurate on it. I think what's bringing the SEC back in line with the Big Ten and even some of the other conferences, as far as their ability to dominate, they're losing the depth. They used to be able to stack depth. They're still the best recruiting conference, but people are buying their players. And so if you probably can prove it, I think that there are a lot of good players that are leaving the SEC after being recruited by the SEC. And there's not as many coming into the SEC. They're not relying on the portal quite as much as they are the high school recruiting. So what's happening is what you just talked about, Florida. They may not have the depth to run that gauntlet, whereas maybe 10 years ago they did. And a lot of teams are just like them. Is there a statistic that you can prove that and say you're exactly right?
No, I can't prove anything. Right? We're kind of throwing. What we're trying to do is throw darts of expectation. right? But I do believe what you're talking about, Coach. There are a lot of things that factor into that. The idea that the SEC relies on high school recruiting, I agree with that. If you look in the NFL, over the last 20 years, teams that rely on free agency, a lot of players in and out, those teams have the worst record. The teams that draft best and retain their talent have the best records in the NFL. The teams that rely on free agency, and in college, to me, free agency is just transfer portal kids. They do the worst, period. So I agree 100% with the SEC's movement to try to get high school kids in. I think the difficulty is continuity. You don't have the depth. You don't have the depth of talent, but you also specifically don't have the depth of experience. And so
Right.
you're putting younger kids into the line of fire earlier. You have less player continuity. We got good coaching continuity in the SEC. That's why I think it's going to be coached pretty good this year. But I think one of the things is you're lacking player continuity. You may be getting a good or even better player than what's leaving, but if 16 starts, 24 starts, walks out the door and is replaced by an equal athletic player with 0 starts, you're still going to decline. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things that is leveling the playing field against the SEC. But that player continuity to me is really one of the big ones that is often overlooked.
Yeah.
Wow. Let me say something. Hey, this here is the Turtle Box from HewlettandDunn.com on the square in Collierville. They're the turtle right there. Anyway, what it is, it's a Bluetooth speaker, but they've got this little seal on the side, okay? You take this thing, you plug it in, but when you click it, you can drop this thing in the water and it doesn't mess it up. I mean, it is so strong, even I can't screw it up. Or, as we like to say, Jethro Bodine can't screw it up. Dave, got to get you a Turtle Box, man. You can sit out there and listen. You know what sounds really good on here? My friend Pete Cordelli, every time he'd be on the radio with me, he always had to put in the bump music. We had to put one of the Grateful Dead's best songs, I think, Ripple. And it sounds great on here. Dave, you ever heard Ripple before?
Yeah, I'm dude. Look at me. I got gray coming out everywhere. I'm not. I'm almost as old as you two. Jiminy.
Okay, I got you. All right. So I think that what you just asked was a great question, Coach. And you look around and at the transfers, the guys that used to stick around to be developed as second and third teamers. You know, that 2010 Auburn team is a benchmark team. You had Nick Fairley, the best defensive player in the country, Cam Newton, the best offensive player. But other than that, you didn't have but a handful of guys drafted and some free agents off that team, but you had 24 seniors on that team. And Coach, you just talked about, and Dave, you did too, guys walking out the door, all those starts. That is huge. And Coach, when you're developing players in today's world, you got to fast track it. You know what you ought to do? Do like they do in the Marine Corps, 13 weeks of basic. You take a bunch of guys east of the Mississippi, and in 13 weeks, you have Marines if they survive, if they leave your island. But that's a fast track to do it. But you obviously want what? Couple of years? How long does it take to learn a new defense? We got about 6 minutes to go, but the breakdown on that real quick, and then I got another one for Dave. This is great stuff. Dave Bartoo, and order these gummies, people. I'm using them. They work. I haven't slept like this since I was 9 years old and didn't have bills and a mortgage and, 4 kids. I mean, I'm glad I got them, but you will sleep 7-8 hours uninterrupted. They work. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, it depends on how complicated you want to get with your system, but no question, when you've got a bunch of kids who've been in it for 2 or 3 seasons, you can turn some things loose out on the field, and they make the adjustments, they make the calls, they can do so much more, and you don't have a lot of things happen that you can't control because they've seen it happen and they make the adjustments and things. So just learning the basic defense, that ain't hard, but learning all the little things that can come off of it and what the offense can and cannot do against this call, et cetera. It takes a kid 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Okay. Dave, that being said, what is a story that we're not talking about in college football, be it in the SEC or anywhere in the country, that we better be paying attention to? Because having you on every week is like, and having you on with Coach is fascinating.
Well, let's see here. Let's go along with that subject of complex defenses taking time to learn. Jim Knowles just went to Penn State. Jim Knowles is an excellent defensive coordinator. But when Ohio State hired him, one of the first things we said is it's going to take 2 or 3 years for this defense to get really good because it is very complicated. It can be very good. It has a high ceiling, but it is not a turn and burn defense. So I know everybody loves Penn State. They got a good offensive coordinator. They got a really good head coach. They got a good offense coming back. They got the quarterback coming back. They got a lot of defensive players coming back. But Jim Knowles' defense takes a minute. I think that it is being not. I think all the shine on Penn State is worthy. But my concern is the defense struggling in year one of Jim Knowles because of the complexity of what he's trying to install. Happened at Ohio State, happened at Oklahoma State. I expect it to happen at Penn State this year.
Yeah, I'm betting 2 sackfuls of crystals that Texas goes up and gets the win at the shoe against Ohio State.
Oh, that game. You know how every year we look back and go, "Ooh, God, we thought that game was great," and it really ended up being against a couple of teams that are not in the top 10.
Yeah.
Right? You got 2 new quarterbacks. Ohio State has a new OC who's never called plays before. They got a new DC who's never been in college before. Texas is a perennial underperformer. Watch out for that game. It may be fun leading up to it, but come November, we might look back and go, woo-wee, that was not as cool as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, we used to hear George Lapidus on the radio in Memphis when you had 2 teams like that playing. He goes, "That's 2 dogs barking at each other." He goes, "Not going." Dude. All right, Coach, for executive producer Brendan Martin, putting out incredible stuff throughout the show, making this ship stay afloat. And stay tuned to this channel. There's content on here, 8 shows, hopefully 9 soon. Cover the SEC like nobody else. Buddy Martin show tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. I really think the excitement, the anticipation for this season is that we don't have to talk about, that other 2 topics, the Portland NIL. I mean, it's all football right now. I think this is going to be a hell of a season. Coach, leave us with your parting words of wisdom in about 30 seconds, what we need to be focusing on right now in the SEC with what's going on in practice and what you're aware of.
Well, what I was focused on, when I got up this morning, I cut my little ESPN app on, and across the top, there was an NCAA football finally, instead of some woke list of sports like WNBA. So hopefully we really are just about there.
Yeah.
I've about had all I can stand.
Yeah.
So when you got to go down a list of 20th spot to find NCAA football, and across the top you got WNBA. We're in woke world, and I'm ready for it to be over, man.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, Dave, I think that the college football people are missing a great promo with all the distractions. Just run a Kurt Cobain. Here we are. Entertain us. Dave, have you seen him, our friend?
No, I have not seen your friend.
All right. But all right, Dave, next week, do you think there's a way we could get the data on what Coach said about guys leaving the SEC? Any kind of numbers? Is that something we could?
I'll see what I can find. There's never going to be anything conclusive because there's so many moving pieces to it. I think it's more of a sum of the parts rather than one individual metric or event that is triggering the changes.
All right, guys, thank y'all both so much for sharing your time. Absolutely awesome. Hey guys, we live in a country, you bet, greatest country in the history of the world. Most see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out, share the show, find ways to help people. Don't give to give. And get out to Landers Ford today, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., Poplar and Houston Levy, LandersFordMemphis.com, and see our friend Brad Bellamy, the GM. Thanks, everybody. Good night, John Boy.